Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Yiboneh Beit Midrash in the Baka neighborhood of Jerusalem. I just want to thank you all who are here live in the audience and on the Skype call for participating. Now, if you're watching this video, I beg you, I suggest to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the Yiboneh YouTube channel, and make sure to hit the bell so that you can be notified when the newest videos come out. Also, we don't mind getting emails or comments, because right now it's open for comments. I always like to get some feedback to know if you're enjoying them, if I'm going too fast, too slow, if there's certain terms that you're not familiar with. So comments are definitely appreciated. Now, tonight's piece is going to be, I think, absolutely fascinating, because knowing the Kliyakar's background and where he came from, having had been a Tinok Shenishba, captured by the Gentiles, he had the world-class education in sciences and religion. So, having that in mind, I think he addresses some fundamental issues that many people who are seekers, true seekers, are dealing with or searching for answers to. So the verse we're going to be dealing with is in Numbers chapter 20, verse 2. And it says like this. Let's start with 1. The children of Israel, the entire assembly, arrived at the wilderness of Tzin in the first month, and the people settled in Kadesh. Miriam died there, and she was buried there. V'yavo b'nei Yisrael kol ha'eda midbar Tzin b'chodesh harishon, v'yeshev ha'am b'kadesh, v'tamat sham Miriam, v'tikaver sham. Okay, that's the first verse. So what do we do? We're going to focus on the fact that Miriam died there and she was buried there. And then, v'lo haya mayim le'eda, there was no water for the congregation. V'yikhalu al Moshe v'al Aaron. And they gathered in the sense to quarrel against him, as the next verse. V'yarev ha'am im Moshe. The people quarreled with Moshe. And we'll get to that, hopefully. So, the Kliyakar begins by telling us, Lo haya mayim le'edad. Yes, it's true, that's what the verse says. There was no water for the congregation. And this is telling us what? What exactly is it telling us? That this was a punishment. That's right. One of the 13 principles we Jews believe in is reward and punishment. Our actions, ready? Our actions cause punishment. Or, Bezrat Hashem, our good acts would help us receive reward. Okay? So what we do makes a difference. And one of the bumper stickers that we haven't made yet, but we're going to make bumper stickers, is that, what was the bumper sticker again? They have deeds matter. Deeds matter, right? They have Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter. We say deeds matter. Okay? They make a difference. So he says, Altzad ha'onesh chasru hamayim. From the aspect, from a certain point of view, it was due to the lack. Why was there a lack of water? It's some type of an onesh, a punishment. And why? Why were they punished? Lefi shelo hispiduha karoi. Because the Jewish people did not eulogize, they did not mourn, the word hesped, right? Hispiduha. They did not eulogize or mourn her as should have been. They didn't do it fittingly. She was a leader. It was not just her. I mean, you're talking about one of the 3 pillars in the desert, right? You had Moshe, you had Aaron, and Miriam. So she was a righteous lady. And they did not mourn her properly. Now, how do we know that? Right? Ki Moshe v'Aharon ne'emar. When it comes to Moses and Aaron's death, it mentions specifically the Yivchu otam b'nei Israel. There are two verses, there's two different people that had passed away in the desert, and it mentions quite clearly that the Jewish people as a whole, as a nation, mourned their loss. V'kan lo ne'emar v'yivchu ota. Now we don't see anywhere, certainly not here, that the Jewish people mourned her loss. V'ne'emar, as we just saw in verse 1, v'tamat sham, Miriam, right, that she died there, v'tikaver sham, and that's it. Meaning, b'makom shemeta, the very place that she died, sham tehe kvorata li'altar. Okay? There she was buried immediately. The very place she passed away, that's it. They buried her. V'nishkacha kamet milev. And they forgot all about her as a dead person from their heart. Right? What would they say? Out of sight, out of mind? Well, guess what? That's not the way it goes. First of all, when we pass on, the only real thing is our ability to communicate. Okay, the soul stays around the body for a week, and even longer. There's different periods where it eventually lets go of this world, but the soul will remain forever. So here we have where they just forgot about her. Lo hirgishu behadera klal, especially by a righteous woman. They didn't feel her loss at all, right? The more righteous, if she wasn't righteous, okay, no big deal, right? But if she was righteous, why wouldn't they feel the loss? Therefore, already as a result of their feelings, just of their feelings, of course, and their deeds, the fact that they did not eulogize her, they didn't mourn her. Guess what? The lack of water came to them, as we said, as a punishment. In order that they should become aware of the fact. They should know, limafreya, retroactively, after she passed away, there's no water. They should come to this consciousness, wow, the water we have been traveling with for the last 39 years was all in her merit. The day she dies, isn't that a coincidence? A quinky dink? We don't believe in coincidences, right? So the day that she dies, the water ends to teach us a lesson that we should have been more appreciative. Now we're going to get into a concept called smichut. Smichut it's discussed in the Gemara. Everyone agrees it works. The question is, how does it work? It's called a juxtaposition of certain verses. When a verse is next to, immediately, some say the following verse as well, but not maybe 3 verses away, that there's no way to go back and say that there's a relationship. Once a few verses pass on, according to some there's no relationship, according to others, and we'll see it another time, that there still is a relationship. So we're discussing the idea that in the Bible, in the scripture, in the 5 books of Moses, and perhaps beyond, that when you have a verse that is juxtaposed, or even if there's one other verse in between, there's a significant relationship. So that's the word smichut. So we're going to use that word a lot. Shenismecha misasa leparshat para. So in the Gemara, in Moed Katan, it mentions that there is a juxtaposition of her death to what? To the para aduma. Para aduma is the red heifer. So all you have to do is go back, and you'll see the whole chapter 19 seems to be, and not just 19, right? Okay, so you'll see that that's dealing with the whole Parsha of Para, and you can look at some of the videos that I spoke about this, and I'll put, Bezrat Hashem, I'll put their links in the description box below. So the Gemara begins by asking, he's quoting the Gemara, why is there a smichut? Why is there this juxtaposition between the death of Miriam and the paraduma, the red heifer? Okay, you have to have your seatbelts on. You have to be tight. Make sure you're in your seat. You're sitting down. So it's telling you, just as korbanos mikaprim, just as korbanot, offerings. First of all, I want to clarify the word korban, offerings, sacrifices. They're really not a good translation. How and why? Well, first of all, we're talking Hebrew, and many Hebrew words, most of the Hebrew words, they all have various meanings. Offerings, sacrifices, not sure. But the word korban, likarev, means to come close. What the korban does is helps you. It's a medium which will help you enhance your relationship with the Almighty. That's what it's there for. Af mitat hatzadikim mikaperet. So too, just like the offerings offer atonement, the korbanos offer atonement, so too, the death of righteous people create or enhance or provide some type of atonement. Now the word mikaperet, right? The word like Yom Kippur, kafar actually literally means to cover over. Like the kaporet on top of the ark. So you had a box, it's a gold box, with our most precious jewels in the Holy of Holies. And on top, there's a cover. It's called a kaporet. It basically covers over. Does it erase your sin? Is that what atonement does? Not necessarily. Listen, for any korban, for anything to work, even the death of a righteous person, there has to be tshuva. Tshuva won't really affect your atonement without tshuva. The more tshuva you do, the more effective it is. Okay, so if one brought, God says, I don't want your korbanot, I want your broken heart, I want your heart. So if you brought a korban to the temple, it wouldn't do anything. Okay, it was a big waste of money, a big waste of time, and it's actually a sin on top of everything. So you are required to do tshuva when you bring a sin offering. Okay, and tshuva, by the way, is a 4-step process, right? You have to realize you did something wrong, and then you have to have, right, that's the regret, and then you do the confession, which is not a public confession like other religions, but it's between you and Hashem. And if you bring the korban, so you're going to lean your hands with all your force on the korban, and you're going to confess to Hashem your sins. So what do we say so far? You have the regret, you have the confession, you have this idea of not wanting to do it again, right? You have a conviction that you don't want to do it again. And of course, the way to find out if you really were sincere is if the opportunity ever arises and you pass that opportunity up, then you know for sure that your atonement, your tshuva has been accepted. So the question the Gemara and the way the Kli Yakar asked it is, Lama nismcha dafka lapara? Why was Miriam's death in close proximity? We call it a smichut, specifically to the paraduma. What's the relationship between Miriam's death and the paraduma, to the red heifer? Ready? First of all, ki b'emet eino kurban. In the most classical sense, the paraduma is not a korban. It's not really a korban. In the fact, we're not supposed to do korbanot outside of the temple area. And this is shechted on Har Zeitim, on the Mount of Olives. But there is a connection. There is a connection to the temple, because when the Kohen, or actually anybody can do the slaughter, but the person who is pure and doing the slaughtering, he has to have an eye view straight into the Holy of Holies. Okay? Right through the doorway of the outer wall of the Temple Mount, as well straight through. So it's as if he's there, as if. So it's a very different type, right? You don't have the normal blood that's going to be sprinkled, but you're going to have the ashes, and they're going to be sprinkled on the people. Now they don't have to be done on the Temple Mount either. So in what way is it not a korban? That's the way I just described. Rak mashim etzinu shekora katuv chatas. However, the verse itself calls it a chatas. A chatas means a sin offering. Okay? Well, it calls it a chatas in the sense that it is an offering. And it is, in a certain sense, a sin offering because it's going to atone. Now I want you to look at the verse in chapter 19, verse 9. If you go to, it's number 24 on the source sheet, and it's the very last two words in Hebrew. Chatas hi. This thing, this ritually, the paraduma is called a chatas, but it's not a chatas in your regular sense, because look at the English. Nobody translates it as a sin offering, because the word chatat does not necessarily mean a sin offering. It has a double meaning. Let's read it in English, and I don't care what, I don't think it matters what English translation, nobody calls it a sin offering. So I got this from Chabad. A ritually clean person shall gather the cow's ashes and place them outside the camp in a clean place. So far we saw the word clean twice. And the word uses tahor. Okay, tahor. Tahor is clean. And it shall be as a keepsake for the congregation of the children of Israel for sprinkling water. That's what it's used for. You're going to sprinkle 1, 2, 3 drops on every person. All they need is 1 drop of this mixture of ash and water, and the person becomes cleansed from tamei mate. Tumas mate is the impurity caused by death. They touched a dead person, or they were in a tent of a dead person, or they carried a dead person. Okay. So it says, Lemei nida, as for sprinkling water, as a chatati. And everyone translates the word chatas as cleaning, cleansing. That's a new one, right? You might find people that would tell the Jews, you guys are devil worshippers or something, right? What does it mean, the chatas is cleansing? Sin is cleansing? No, because it doesn't mean sin in the regular sense. Look at Rashi. You'll see it on the next page at the top. Rashi says, Chatas hi, Lashon chitoi k'pshuto. Now, it's an expression of cleansing. Chitoi is the simple meaning. And that's Rashi. That's what Rashi's job, is to give us pshat. Well, you notice that nobody translates it as a sin offering. Scripture calls it a chatas, a sin offering, to tell us it is like a holy object. Using it for personal benefit is forbidden. So you learn halachot. It's like, it has the status of a sin offering. That's what it has, the status. But it's not a sin offering. And it is going to cleanse us from sin, we'll see. Therefore, cleansing us from sin, it's actually cleansing us, cleaning. Okay, I know this might be above some people's heads, but this is the way we're explaining it. And like this. This is a famous medrash. He's going to just introduce one idea, and then we're going to get into a little bit further. Just as the cow, the paraduma has to be in its 3rd year of life. What does it mean a 3rd year? It has to be a 2-year-old cow. It has to be beyond its 2nd year birthday. The 2 years and 1 day means it's a 3-year-old cow. It's in its 3rd year of life, which means it's capable of being a mother. And it's coming to atone or cleanse what we call tamei mate, right? What is that tuma of death? So let me just clarify a few things. I mentioned that it's when you touch a dead body. Where does this tuma come from? This impurity. Tuma is impurity. When Adam Arishon, before he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, death had not yet come into the world. So sin brought death. Fine. When we stood at Mount Sinai, right after traveling for 50 days in the desert, after leaving Egypt, we said Nasa v'nishma. Death left. In other words, many understand that we were going to live forever. And then 40 days later, when we worshiped the golden calf, death came back into the world. I'll tell you how the Kliyakar explains it. He doesn't say that we were going to live forever, just like perhaps Adam Harishon may or may not have been able to live forever. But basically what it means is this. What we call the Satan, the Satan, and what we call the angel of death, the Malach HaMaves, and what we call the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, it's all one thing. Whatever that entity is, God created it. Okay? When someone passes on, So there's a tug of war. We are physical beings and we're spiritual beings at the same time. As we live our life, if we're truly reaching for a spiritual way of life, we're going to be less and less physical. And therefore, when we pass on, our righteous soul will be happy to leave the body and there's no tug of war. When someone, unfortunately, may be so physically inclined that they just love this world, it'll be very difficult for their passing, and therefore the soul clings. It says the death of righteous is like pulling a hair out of a glass of milk. That's how easy it should be. We discussed in Parshas Chayasara the name of Chevron. There's 4 names of Chevron, and we talked about 4 types of death. The word Mamre is related to the word Mumer, which is a rebel, which means some people die because of their own sins. And then the word Eshkol, Chevron is called Eshkol. Eshkol has to do with mourning, and therefore there's someone else left behind, meaning that somebody died because of someone else's sins. I know that's going to be very troublesome to some people. We're going to discuss that tonight in depth, and that's why I'm bringing it up. The word Kiryat Arba is relating just to the fact that the body disintegrates. And this is why Sarah, only the last 2 words or adjectives, pronouns were used for Chevron. Kiryat Arba, he Chevron. Chevron is lachaber. It's called the kiss of death. Now that sounds raunchy and nasty and mean, but no. The kiss of death means that just as Hashem breathed into you, your soul, so too he breathed, mouth to mouth, so to speak. Right? The kiss. He withdrew your soul, but there was no tug of war. There was no Malach HaMaves. There was no angel of death involved. The higher level you are, the angel of death. So the whole idea of the impurity comes only from the angel of death. So going back to the the Sinaitic experience, we didn't, according to the Klikar, it wasn't we were going to live forever, but we were no longer under the influence of the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, or the Malach HaMaves. We were free. That's true freedom, as the words say. They were engraved on the luchos. Charut is cherut, right? The word for engraving is the same word for freedom. We found freedom from the Yetzer Hara, from angel of death. Not that we were going to live forever, but that we were never going to be killed or die in the lower senses of being under the influence of the angel of death, and therefore would only be through the kiss of death. And that's how Aaron and Moses both died. Okay. How did Miriam die? The same way. But it wasn't Tsanua to mention a kiss of death when it comes to Miriam, okay? So she also died by the kiss of death, but apparently it was not modest to speak in those terms. So going back now to what we said, the point of everything we said about the Korban and Miriam, the juxtaposition is just as the para, the mother cow, comes l'kaneach tzoat bona, she comes, the mother is going to clean up after her child, like we still talk about a shifcha, a handmaid in the palace of a king, and she has her child home, she's living in the palace, and the kid is a little rambunctious and makes a mess. Who's going to clean up? The handmaid. She's going to clean up after her own kid. So too, just like the cow cleans up after its kid. What's its kid? The egel. Like egel means the calf, the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf, the remnants, the stains. So too, hatzadeket. So too, that's what a righteous woman will do. Ein kol chai. She is the mother of all life. You hear that, women? B'misasa mikanachat tzoat toldoseha. So too, we're talking about this righteous woman Miriam. Through her death, she will clean up the tzoa, the feces, the dirt, so to speak, from her children. Again, the word children, it doesn't say children, it says toldoseha, from her produce. Produce can mean also I said all deeds matter. What we do, deeds, that's our produce. This is what we leave behind. That's why Parsha Noach speaks of before Noach, right? These are the toldos of Noach. What does it mean? Then it goes on to speak about his behavior, right? And or other parshiot, right? Toldos Yaakov. It's not talking about the progeny. It's talking about the behavior. It's talking about the fruits of your labor, the fruits of, right, the produce of what you have accomplished in this world. Now, before we go into this, I actually, let's see where it is on the source sheet. Okay, we didn't get there yet. We're getting there soon. I copied a piece from the Gemara in Brachos Yud Zayin. You have it here. We're going to get to that. Wow. Okay. So this concept, this smichut, this proximity, actually this idea of proximity, the Medrash brings down in 4 different places. So we're using what we would call standard texts. These are nothing unusual. This is Judaism 101. Okay? All these are legitimate texts. The first smichut is the smichut, the proximity of the death of the death of the Bnei Aaron, children of Aaron, to the day of Yom Kippur. So if you go to Vayikra chapter 17, I believe, 16. Right? Look at 16:1, but you can see the whole chapter. And the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's 2 sons. V'yidaber Adonai Moshe achrei Mos shnei bnei Aaron bikarvatam lifnei Hashem ve'yamusu. Right? After they drew near. You see that? After they drew near. That's what the word karvatam, korbanos. Okay? They died, and all of a sudden you see all the words, the whole chapter is dealing with what? Yom Kippur. Their death, what does it have to do? Well, we know Yom Kippur itself is a day of atonement. So you have right there the death of Aaron's 2 sons with an atonement process. Then you have here the smichut of Miriam to the Parah. We're going to be discussing that as we have already discussed it. And then there's the third, smichut mitat Aaron lebigdei kahuna mekaprim. So now I just want you to go in the same chapter we're in to verse 26. So it says, strip Aaron of his garments and dress Eliezer his son with them. Right? V'hafshet es Aaron es bigadav. So take Aaron's clothes off. V'hilbashtam es Eliezer bano. And now you're going to dress Eliezer in his place with the clothes. V'Aaron ye'asef umei sham. And Aaron was gathered to his right. He died there, and he died there. So that's the point. He died there. We're going to see the words "died there." What do we see by Miriam? It says the same words. She died there. Okay. So the main point here is that each part of the Kohen's outfit, there were 8 garments that the Kohen Gadol wore. Each one atoned for a different sin of the people, his own sins. So for example, we talked about the tzitz. The tzitz was a plate that ran across the forehead, and it said holy to Hashem. And that atoned for arrogance. As we know that arrogant people push out their forehead a little bit too far. Right? And so each one, the miknasayim, I remember the pants, they atoned for illicit sexual relations. Different pieces of his outfit atoned for different things. And the fourth is in Parshas Ekev, Samach Misas Aaron L'Shvirot HaLuchot. Now I want you to look, let's see, it's in Deuteronomy chapter 10. Now it's mainly verse 6, but it's really, 2 through 6. Let's go 2 and 6. And I shall inscribe on the tablets the words that were upon the first tablets, which you shattered, right? Moses shattered them. So the words over there, asher shibarta, which you had shattered, that you broke. And then in the next part of the verse, verse 6, the children have journeyed from the wells of Bnei Yakan to Mitzrayim, there Aaron died. Again, the word Sham Meis Aaron, he died there. So there's an idea of what do you think God felt when Moses shattered those tablets? That was quite a disappointment. It's very difficult for us. We fast, and in fact, in the next few weeks, I hope it won't. If Mashiach comes and things change, okay? So we're not expecting to fast, but if the status quo, things don't change, then on the 17th of Tammuz is the day that the first set of tablets were received and then shattered on the 14th of Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz. I'm just seeing who's paying attention. It says, Shekasha misas hatzadikim kashviras haluchos. When righteous people die, pass on, it's hard, it's difficult. Just as righteous people, when they die, it's the same feeling. You know why it's hard for the people? It's not hard for Hashem. You know what actually Hashem said when the luchos were shattered? He said, Yasher kochacha. He said, good going, Moshe. Now, I mean, come on, does that make any sense? This is our oral Torah teaches us that yes, that this was a point in time where we were about to have a marriage, right? The revelation at Mount Sinai was a marriage ceremony going on. And we were about to marry Hashem, and instead, unfortunately, we were doing adultery and idolatry. We were involved in this illicit relation with a foreign god. So that was a no-no, that was bad. However, God said Yasher Koach, because what you did was, by breaking the luchos, which was basically the marriage ring, you caused the relationship not to yet become in a communion. We only on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, that's when we really had this communion with Hashem. We received the second set of tablets, and that was the marriage, when the marriage was consummated. Okay, so the last thing he said was, whenever a tzaddik dies, while a tzaddik is alive, shemin kol tzaddik yegia, when a tzaddik is alive, reaches to the people of that generation 4 types of benefits. It's beneficial for us to have righteous people in this world. Sorry, one second. So we're going to go through them. Echad, what's one of those benefits? Shekol ha'olam nizun b'schuto. Can you imagine such a statement being made by Chazal? The whole world is nourished in his merit. One person is somehow allowing the whole world to survive. And the Gemara in Brachos, Yud Zayin, which I do want to read, and I want to spend time. What I feel, maybe I should go through the rest of this piece in the clear card and then go back to it. It's fair? Sounds right? I don't know. Kol ha'olam nizun b'shvil chanina b'ni. God is saying this, right? The whole world. Actually, I'll read the Gemara. I think now's the time. So it's a part of a continued conversation. K'da Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. As Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. And here's the statement. B'kol yom v'yom, each and every single day. While Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was alive, Abat kol yetze mihar chorev, that a heavenly voice would come out from Mount Sinai. We're talking about only, 1500 years ago. His generation of heavenly voice would come out from Mount Sinai and say, V'omeret, Kol ha'olam kulo, nizuno bishvil chanina b'ni. The entire world, the whole world in its entirety, is nourished on the merit, on the account of Chanina, my son. V'ilu Chanina b'ni atzmo dailo. You know what? Chanina b'ni, my son, it's enough for him. How much? Kav charubim me'erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. He nourishes from 24 egg volumes worth a kav of carobs. That's how he survives from when? From Motzi Shabbos until Friday afternoon. Or maybe including Shabbos itself, but that's a whole discussion, and hopefully we will get into it. So I want to go through this piece of the Gemara. First of all, what is it saying? That the entire week, all he would eat are these carobs. 24 egg volumes worth. Because he was mitparsem b'tsar b'tzimtzum. He survived by an extreme pain and fasting on very little. Lo haya meod biyado likniat lechem. He was very poor and he didn't have enough money to buy any bread. This is how he survived. Now, the Kliyakar actually has explained how is it that someone who's a righteous person atones. How does it change one's life? So the simple explanation is that when you go and eulogize somebody, you go and you have masses of people and they're hearing about someone's life and how righteous they were and their deeds are being mentioned, how could you not feel, wow, I can't even live up to their toenail. Wow, I have to change, right? I have to change my ways. So just going and hearing about someone's death, not that their death necessarily magically covered and atoned, but they arouse you to do tshuva. By their death, there's a eulogy. This is the most simple explanation without getting into the hocus pocus. What we're going to actually get into is some of the deep Kabbalistic thoughts that bring us up several levels. But I want you to understand, how could you go to a levaya, a funeral, and hear about someone who was as righteous as whoever they were, and not be moved to want to be a better person? You follow what I'm saying? That's like the ultimate in tshuva, right? When you first realize how far you need to grow still. Or at least you have like a bar and all of a sudden the bar was raised, right? You're like living comfortable. You think you're God's gift to the world, right? You got nothing you need to work on, unless you're married, of course. Then you always have someone telling you what you need to work on. Baruch Hashem for marriage. Okay, so that's like the most simplest understanding. But the Gemara, the Rashba comments, and he brings some different ideas. So I want to go through them with you. I think at this point what we're going to do, we'll continue with the rest of the Kliyakar and get back to this. There's just too much good stuff that I want to spend more time on this and not feel that I skipped out on the Kliyakar. So let's finish with the Kliyakar and then we'll get back to this. Okay, so the last thing we just mentioned about this righteous person, somehow or another, we're saying there's 4 major benefits that righteous people give you while they're alive. So one of them, we're going to discuss shortly, is something like they nourish you. They nourish you physically. Of course, we know that they're going to nourish us spiritually because they're the teachers of the Torah. So we have this idea that the mother cleans up after her child. Now where do we see that? So go to Song of Songs chapter 4 to see where we are. Verse 5. Okay, it says, your 2 breasts, Shnei Shadayich, are like fawns, the twins of the gazelle who graze among the roses. So that's the verse. Kishnei Afarim To'amei Tzviyah Haroim B'Shoshanim. But literally, that's how ArtScroll translate that, but that's the analogy. But literally, it's talking about Moses and Aaron, who are your sustainers, are like 2 fawns, twins of the gazelle, who graze their sheep in rose-like bounty. So Rashi says on this, okay, got to find the right page now. What does it mean, your two breasts? The two breasts is that which nourish you. Again, referring to Moses and Aaron. Are like two fawns, the twins of gazelle. It's customary for gazelle to bear twins so that they're both identical, this one and that one. Again, symbolizing Moses and Aaron. The two breasts which nourish you are symbolic of the tablets themselves. Now the next piece, the twins of a gazelle, this I mentioned before that the 5 commandments on one side of the tablets were parallel to the other 5. In other words, it's true there were 10 statements, and statement number 1 all through till 5, they're between you and God, and the second set from 6 till 10 are between you and other people. However, even though they're like that, 1 is parallel to 6. You see it, it's parallel, right? It's parallel. But how is it parallel? That's what we're going to discuss. So 1 and 6, 2 and 7. I'll just go to number, just so you have an idea. 1, do not, right? You have to believe in God, right? Believe I'm the God who took you out of Egypt. And number 6 is don't murder, right? You have this idea that we're creating the image of God. You have to believe in God. You believe someone else, you're creating the image of God. Well, what about the other guy? The other guy's creating the image of God just like you're creating the image of God. So you can't murder him because he's creating the image of God. I am the Lord your God, and do not murder, because there's a relationship. Number 2 is also simple, right? What is number 2? Don't take the Lord of your name, God, in vain, right? Don't worship other gods. Don't worship other gods, and then you have number 7 is don't have a relationship outside of marriage, right? Like we just described. Do not commit adultery. Adultery and idolatry even sound alike. If you say it, fast 10 times, I'm sure you'll get confused, right? Adultery and idolatry. So let's go through. He says exactly corresponding in one measure. 5 commandments on this one side of the tablets correspond to the 5 commandments on the other side. Each commandment corresponding to a commandment. I'm Lord your God, corresponds, you shall not murder. For murdering diminishes the semblance of the Holy One, right? You're taking out the image of God from the other guy. You shall not have any other gods before me, that's number 2. You shall not commit adultery. For one who commits adultery is like an adulterous woman. Idolatry is like an adulterous woman who takes strangers instead of her husband. We're talking about a relationship of marriage between us and Hashem. If we're married to Hashem, so therefore anything that's idolatrous is really also committing adultery. Okay, so you see the correspondence so far? I spoke out the first 2. Now let's go on to the rest. I'm sure you guys are interested in hearing the rest. You shall not bear the name of the Lord your God in vain, and you shall not steal, right? Number 3 is do not steal. Number 3 is do not take the Lord's name of God in vain. And number, on the other side, 8, you shall not steal, because one who steals will ultimately have to swear falsely. Meaning, if you're already stealing, you might as well, continue to sin, right? No, don't do either one. What about number 4? Keep the Sabbath day. And number 9, don't bear false witness. Don't be a false witness. When we make kiddush, right? We stand there with a cup in our hand. We have people around us, or in shul. When you go to shul, we make sure we say, right? We say the words out loud. We're all trying to bear witness that today is Shabbat. And when if someone would break Shabbat, so they're profane here. What does it say? For one who profanes the Sabbath testifies falsely against his Creator. Okay, it's a false witness. Okay, and then number 10, don't covet something doesn't belong to you. For one who covets is destined to beget a son who slights him and honors one who's not his father. Meaning the 5th commandment of do not honor your parents is between you and God. It's on the end. It's number 5. It corresponds to number 10. Do not. Okay, so there you have that piece. Okay, so we're going back into the Kliyakar. The last thing he mentioned was Shnei Shadayach, about the 2 breasts that do the nourishing. He says these are Moses and Aaron. In other words, when the righteous people are alive, this is what they benefit you. They benefit the world. Just like Rashi says. Now we also find in Gemara Tainus, Shebeschut Miriam Hayalehem HaBe'er. We call the bear Miriam, we call it Miriam's well. Why do we call it Miriam's well? Because it was in her merit that we had this rock that rolled around and followed us through the desert for 39 years. Okay? Now in Israel, there are different places. I think there's a place in the Kinneret. They say that's Miriam's well. There's some kind of rock. It's like a natural spring. You go on the 443 highway, and where they cut through to make the route through the mountain, there's water coming out of the mountain, and people stop on the side of the road and fill their bottles with water. And they have a little sign. It's called Bear Miriam. Like you can imagine, water comes out of rocks. It's true, right? So. The truth is that this rock in the desert followed them around and produced the water in the merit of Miriam's honor, Miriam's deeds. It actually provides all of their needs. Now, what did she do? Shifra and Pua. There were these two nursemaids. They helped give birth to the Jews while they were in Egypt. What are they called? In English, there's a word. So, mioledet, midwives. Okay, so they were the midwives. They provided food and cover and shelter and clothes for these babies because they were hiding them, the boy babies, right? So, in the merit of providing their needs, this rock provided the needs for all of the Jews for the 40 years we were in the desert. Deeds matter. Deeds matter. So we see that Miriam's death is in close proximity to the cow. The cow, I'm calling it it's a heifer, but it's a red cow. Aim ha'egel, who is technically speaking the mother of the egel, meaning that's what she gives birth to, a calf. An egel is the word for like we use for the golden calf. Habalataken kilku bona. She's coming to fix what was ruined, what her child made a mess of. Okay, so that's all together, that's the first to'elis, that's the first benefit so far that we see that tzaddikim do for us. Tzaddik melamdam lahoil derech Hashem u'mitzvah. You know what else righteous people do? They guide, they teach the Jewish people, they teach others how to go and ascend in the way of God and doing mitzvahs. That's why the death of the righteous person is compared to the breaking of the law, the breaking of the mitzvahs, the breaking of the Torah, the breaking of the luchot, the tablets, which contained all that. The third benefit is pschuso magen ketzel ukabeged. Their merit saves us, guards us, protects us from like shade, like a shadow, and like clothing that's made lahatzil mikur v'chom. What they do for us saves us, like I just described, either clothing or shade from either heat or cold. Ubemoto sartzilem. Now, when they pass on to the next world, then this guarding, this protection is removed. Arumi mikol michse, and then we become, whoever the generation, becomes naked from any kind of clothing and covering. As an example, just look at verse 29 in our chapter. When Aaron died, do you know what happened? I'm a little confused here. Here we are. So I have here verse 26, but I think if you open up, you'll see several verses. Is it 26? It is 29. But anyway, let's see. 26 says like this. So, divest Aaron of his garments and dress Eliezer's son. Okay, we read that. And Aaron shall be brought in and die there. So we now go to 29. The entire assembly saw that Aaron had perished. Veyiru kol ha'eda. Are you telling me that everyone saw him die? How can that be possible? It was a very private matter. He went up to the mountain. He was alone, except for Eleazar. The entire assembly saw that Aaron had perished, that they wept for Aaron 30 days, the entire house of Israel. So what does it mean they saw him die? So look at Rashi. The entire assembly, when they saw Moses and Aaron coming down, and Aaron did not come down, so they said, "Where's Aaron?" You can see they didn't see him die. They responded, "He's dead." Is it possible that he stood opposite the angel of death? He was able to stop everyone else from dying, and yet he would die himself? How could he fall under the domination of the angel of death? First of all, he didn't. He got the kiss of death, by the way. Moses immediately sought mercy and prayed, and the ministering angel showed Aaron to them. They saw and they believed. Because how could he have died? Right? He stopped death from thousands of people. So what happened was this. The cloud of glory ceased. Just like when Miriam died, the rock ceased from producing water. When Aaron died, the protecting clouds. We're talking about what the benefits do the righteous people give you? Protection. They give you protexia. They're there, right? That's what righteous people do. And Aaron was one of them. And so when he died, the clouds of glory, which were protecting them along the way, it killed all the scorpions, right? And it protected them from the heat and everything else. Okay, now if you go to Numbers 21:1, you'll see it a little bit more clearly. It says, the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the south, heard that Israel had come by route of the spies. He waged war against Israel and took them from them a captive. So why am I saying 21:1? Because there's also a juxtaposition. 21:1, sorry. That's the verse we just read. Look at we just read verse 29. See, that's why if you we read 20:26, but if you go to 20:29, we just got finished saying the entire assembly saw that Aaron had perished. And then right away, the Canaanite king heard. What did he hear? He also saw, he also perceived that the cloud of glory, that's why he knew he could attack. This thing was protecting us. This cloud of glory was protecting us. So as soon as he realized also that Aaron had died, how? Well, it wasn't that he heard that Aaron had died. He realized there was no more protection because the clouds of glory had dissipated. Look at, I think, we didn't finish that Rashi. If you look at the last Rashi from last week, from chapter 20, verse 29, it says that Aaron had perished. Whoever has the Targum Onkelos renders because Aaron had died is an error. But read, they appeared, as we just saw. That Moses and Eleazar made Aaron appear so that they realized he had died. Our rabbis of blessed memory did not say that this instance the word ki serves as daha because, except with respect to the midrashic interpretation that the clouds of glory departed because after, right, they departed after Aaron's death. This was the whole idea, how this king of Arad knew to immediately come and wage war. So look at Rashi on that verse. He heard that Aaron had died and that the clouds of glory had departed. Okay? So that's another benefit that righteous people provide in their lifetime, as the verse says, Vayei Ra'u, with a yud that has a tseirei, which means sheniru, that he appeared. Hainu basar ta'anan and nimshul beged. What did they perceive? It means they perceived the removal of the clouds that is similar to a garment. And that's why you have the juxtaposition of the garment of the Kohanim in relating here in Aaron's death. And what's the fourth? This is going to be where we're going to go back into that Gemara. The fourth thing is Shehum Nekaper Aleim B'Misaso, that the righteous people atone for them in their death. It could mean through their death, but in their death, Zu Smicha Liyom Kippurim. That's why we have we saw that the two sons of Aaron, where they died, and then you have all of the laws of Yom Kippur. And the Kli Yakar ends by saying, Kal lahavin. This is very easy to understand. I'm not so sure it's easy to understand. I believe it requires some meditation, some real soul searching. But I want to go back to the Gemara where we spoke about Chanina Beni is somehow nourishing the entire world, or the entire world is being nourished on his account. So on the right side, about a third down, it says the Rashba. He says, Dan bestir gedola shemetzina binyanim elu, that the Rashba deals with a great contradiction that we find regarding these ideas, shal kabbalat schar machmas chiyuto shel adam, regarding the receiving of reward on account of the mitzvahs of a person, right? On the merit. This contradicts things. Now, what does that mean? If God says, I'm nourishing the whole world, so what about personal responsibility? If I do sins, so then I'm not going to lose because of him? Does it make any sense? I think there's a religion like that, right? This guy died for my sins, I can do whatever the heck I want, right? I heard there's such a religion. Anyway, it doesn't make sense, he says. We have actually a great contradiction, because we find the ideas of receiving reward on account of what we actually do, meaning deeds matter. So there's a Gemara in Moed Katan that Rava mentions, B'ni chaye u'mezonai la b'schuta talya milsa ela b'mazla talya milsa. There's such a statement in the name of God that the people of the world, right, the life, how many years they live, and how, if they're rich or they're poor, is not dependent on their merits, but strictly on the constellations, strictly on fate alone. So you have a problem here. If you have a Gemara that says such a thing, so what's this idea that one person can change all that? Are you guys with me? V'kasha, hare psukim meforeshet. It's a very difficult thing to come up with because we have very clear verses. And I'll give you an example. Deuteronomy 7:13. It says, He will love you, He will bless you. He's going to bless the fruit of your womb, and on all these great blessings of having lots of grains and grapes. But if you look, right? And what about verse 12 right before it? If you listen, if you do the right thing, if you do this, you'll be blessed. We all know that. Anybody that read the scripture knows, you do this, you'll be blessed. Your deeds matter. So what does it mean that it's all in the constellations and all its fate? That's just to strengthen the question. I'll just read his words. He says, finds it very difficult because there are a lot of verses that are quite clear in the Torah that through your merits of a man, the man can merit how long he'll live and how much welfare he'll receive. So he brings several of the verses, I just mentioned two of them, that show clearly that what you do makes a difference. So he says, "V'kein kashe'ek nifrash hadavar shayu lechanina zuchiyotav gedolos, ad shekol ha'olam nizum b'zuchiyotav, ve'la'atzmo ein lo ela kav charuvim." This makes the question even more difficult. How is it that he, Chanina, is able to make the whole world survive, sustain, and yet he only survives on 24 egg volumes worth? This really doesn't make any sense. It's almost the same question we asked about Aaron. If Aaron is able to withhold death from thousands and thousands of people, how could he have died? So the same question is really asked about Aaron. I think it's quite clear. We have a dilemma. How is it that Chanina is able to survive on just such a small amount of food? So let me just read this. The Rashba answers, and this is what he says. Shekol haftachot ketuvim shemekabel adam ba'avur zchuyotav. that all the promises that you'll find in the Torah that are written about a person receiving reward for his, on account of his actions, Hu zechir l'klal Yisrael, shemizonoteihem yu lefi zechiyoteihem. That's talking about the general category of Jews, the Jews in general. It's not personal. Okay, it's really not personal. Aval ha'adam ha'prati, but when it comes to the individual person, eina mekabel b'nei chaya mazoni makan zikotav ele etzlo mazla tloya milsa. Each person on his own level is receiving what fate has in store for him. Al kain hagam shekol Yisrael nahagu neheneh mizchoyotav shel chanina. Therefore, what we see is that the general group, the Jewish people, benefited from the merits that Chanina provided. Hu atzmo lo hayalo, but Chanina himself did not merit. He was not included. He went on his own prati level, on his own private level, according to what fate had in store for him. So when we think about, oh, I know righteous people that suffer, or I know righteous people that died in the Holocaust, or I know, right, good people, bad people that are doing well, that has nothing to do necessarily with the person. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the person himself. It has to do with the generation and what's meant in general for the generation. And then there's what we call hashkacha klali and hashkacha prati. Okay, this is, maybe we'll do a whole class on it, but there's the general providence that God provides, and then there's the individual providence. And He's acting on both levels. However, I have a surprise for you. Outside the land of Israel, it's more of a general and less of a specific on a personal level. And only in the land of Israel do you get to see both. So those people who are conscious, God conscious, living outside the land, so then you can get glimpses. But when you get here to the land, it's going to be like a magnifying glass. It's like, oh, I thought I had a relationship with God. I thought I knew God. But when you get to Eretz Israel, it's like, I don't know, like the Hubble telescope. Like, I don't know, 1,000,000 trillion times better in terms of your relationship and your... Okay, the next piece. Medua kol am nizum b'shvil Rabbi Chanina yesh lo ra kav charuvim. So this is a similar question. Why would the whole world benefit on account of Rabbi Chanina while Rabbi Chanina himself is surviving only on this small amount? So the Torah's Chaim asked a question. Schuto shmur le'om haba. The main reward is always going to be in the world to come. We're not really looking for on a personal level for our reward here. However, at the same time, we already mentioned that his merit is benefiting in other people in this world. So then, wouldn't it make sense that he himself would benefit in this world? At least he's part of the group, right? If the whole group is going to benefit, all the Jewish people are going to benefit from his actions, why is he excluded? Why isn't he included? He should be automatically included. So he answers according to what is said in the Medrash. Now let's get a little technical, but if you go to Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 4. Now there's obviously, whenever we talk about Song of Songs interpreting, there's going to be the literal interpretation and then the allegorical interpretation. So anytime you look at Art Scroll, on the top it's the allegorical, and on the bottom it's the literal. So the allegorical interpretation says, like a cluster of henna in Engedi, vineyards has my beloved multiplied his forgivings to me. And in Hebrew, Eshkol HaKother. What's Eshkol? Eshkol is a cluster. It's a cluster. It's also, talking about Eshkol, the four names of Hebron, it's the when someone dies for someone else's sins. It also means a cluster. So we're going to see what kind of cluster? Someone who has a tremendous amount of good deeds. He uses Mikra, Mishnah, Shas, Tosfos, Agados, all kinds of groupings of Torah learning. Okay, we'll get there in a second. But the rest of the verse says, Eshkal kofer, the word kofer. What is kofer? Kofer means atonement. Dodi li bekarme engedi. We said, like a cluster of, let's say, atonement. The vineyards, which is again relating to cluster, has my beloved multiplied his forgiveness. Okay, so let's read what the Torah's Chaim has to say. So he answers by telling us what it says in the Midrash on this verse. If God forbid the Jewish people come to many sins and bad actions, God sees who is going to be the greatest of that generation. He chooses, he sees who is the greatest. Sheyachal lomar lemidas didin die. And God is able to say, remember, if there's a lot of sin, so then the whole people should suffer, right? There should be a judgment. So God says, die. Enough judgment. What he's going to do, he's going to remove the judgment from the people and place it on this one person. Pretty spooky, huh? Every generation. He's able to say to the midas hadin, to this attribute of judgment, die. V'notlo mishkano ba'adam, and he removes it. He takes it, and it's like a guarantee in there. He puts this person as a guarantor in their place, and this is what it means. The verse we just said in Song of Songs, like a cluster of atonement. My vineyards has my beloved multiplied his forgiveness to me. Shekadosh Baruch Hu's no telaish hakol taloibo. God removes this person. This means through the death. He removes the person that everything is dependent on. And what is everything? Mikra, Mishnah, Shas, Tosas, Agados, all the learning. It's called Eshkol. That's what it means, Eshkol, the cluster of learning. Shehum mekaper avonoteihem. He is going to atone for their sins. That's what it means by kofer, the kofer that we saw for henna. Sheyachol lomar midas hadin die. He says, he's able to say to midas hadin enough. And that's what it means, dodi li. Midas hadin die. And you can see in the words, we see many places through Shas, throughout the oral Torah, that a righteous person, a very righteous person, grabs the sins of the generation. But you know what? Sarich biur medua tzarich lomer dai lamidas hadin. This is going to get very Kabbalistic. Why would God feel the need to say enough to the midas hadin, to restrict the midas hadin? It kind of makes sense. God's all about love, so he doesn't want to see his people destroyed. So let's see what the comment here is. And this is from the Torah's Chaim. If you notice, chapter 1 of Genesis does not have the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. God's name of mercy, attribute of mercy, is not mentioned at all. It's only in the second chapter you have both names. So in the first chapter, it sounds like it's all Midas Hadin. It's Elokim. That's the character trait of judgment. So the Medrash says God wanted to create the world with Midas Hadin, but he saw the world would not survive. So he created with mercy as well. Now we've discussed this idea that really Din is a subcategory of mercy. In other words, even when a parent is not cruel, but let's say needs to be stern to his child, it's because he has mercy. It's the parent who has no sense of setting up boundaries and responsibilities, really being cruel. Okay? So the setting up the boundaries of being stern is really a sense of rachamim. But anyway, he says that however, it seems that God created the world with both characters, as we notice in chapter 2, whereas Bora Midas Hadin Lechud Lo Yemiskayim Afil B'Shas Achas. If God would have created the world only with judgment, the world would not be able to exist even for a moment. Whereas if he created the entire world with mercy, then there would never have been a punishment ever. It couldn't have, I guess we would have been spoiled or rotten. Therefore God sees together. What he's trying to say is everybody's sharing it. Okay, that's what it means by Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh La'ad Zeh. If anybody wants to convert, I would seriously think twice. When you become a Jew, we all share the responsibility of the sins of everyone else. It kind of gets spread out evenly. Okay, I'm kidding about not converting. But anyway, I do want you to think about that though. Therefore, the truth is, if it's split evenly, right, half of the world is going to get the rachamim part, and half is going to be the din part, which is interesting because there's a certain philosopher in Canada, and he speaks about, I'm talking about today, about the differences in society with the right and the left. There's a right and a left, there's like crazy in America between the Democrats and the Republicans, and even here you have almost like a split down, 50-50. Many societies have a 50-50 split. Anyway, when I read this today, I thought about that statement that he made. It was Jordan Peterson. Anyway, I think there's something to it. However, what happens is whoever's the greatest of the Jewish people is always going to be parallel to the rest. Like we said about Moses. Moses is equal to the whole Jewish people. Moses says, wipe me out. God wanted to wipe out the Jewish people because of the sin of the golden calf and start over. He's not going to start over with you. If he's starting over with him, it means that if you put him on the scale, Moses is equal to the whole Jewish people because God was willing to wipe them out and start over with him. He's equal to the whole Jewish people. Is that clear? Okay. So he's going to go into that a little bit. That's anybody in every generation, whoever the greatest are, you can see how they're equal. Nimsa, k'sheyotze katzpo shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. You see that, I skipped something. So in Genesis, where's this verse? Exodus 32 verse 10. And now desist from me, let my anger flare up against them. Am I in the right place? Yeah. And I shall annihilate them, and I shall make you a great nation. So we see that Moses is shakul neged Yisrael, that Moses is parallel in weight, right? He's equal to the whole Jewish people. It comes out that when God's anger went out, it was mechalik. It was like he divided the world into two. Azai chelek echad hu gadol hador, meaning, what do you mean he divided into two? He took the greatest person, Moses, put him on one side, and all the Jewish people on the other, and they were equal balance. He was equal to the whole Jewish people. So what would have been fitting? The midas hadin titul as kol Yisrael. It really would have been fitting that the character trait of judgment would have just taken out the Jewish people because they sinned. And whereas the midas harachamim should have just taken care of Moses because he was the gadol hador. He was the greatest of the generation. And then only allow Moses to survive. Just like God says to Moses at the time that the Jewish people sinned, and I just read it in Exodus 13:10, that he wanted to wipe out the Jewish people and start it over and make him a great nation. However, God puts forward, He's merciful. He wants to put forward this midas harachamim, shetitu lechelka et achelek hayafe shu Yisrael. Right? He wants that portion to remain in the portion that's the best part. Or memela midas hadin notelas as hagadol shebedor. So what's the best part? The biggest part is the Jewish people. So that's why God takes the gadol hador. That's why God removes the leader of the generation as an atonement, saying enough judgment. Enough judgment. I'm going to take the greatest of you. In fact, I'll tell you another, when it says when fire goes out and attaches itself to thorns, right, in Mishpatim, and then it goes on and takes the grains. So it says the grains are consumed. It attaches itself to thorns, but the grains are consumed. What do we learn over there? Very clearly, that when evil decrees come into the world, meaning God's judgment, it comes because of the evil people creating the judgment, but who gets burnt first? Who's the one who's going to suffer the most? The righteous. However, that's why God puts forth the midas of rachamim. He puts forth his mercy. He's interested in that, and he'll take the portion that is the most beautiful, the nicest part of Israel, which is the Jewish people themselves, and then automatically the midas hadin, that part of judgment, is going to take the gadol shabador, the greatest person of the generation, v'hu nitpas ba'avon hador, and he will be he will basically be seizing the sin of the generation. Now, what I just mentioned before, and I'll say it again because I know that the microphones, the sound was off. There's a few ideas here that we find in Parshas Mishpatim, when someone's not responsible for the fire that they have. It says if the fire goes out and attaches itself to thorns, and then it consumes the grains. So we learn from there that evil or bad, like perennials, judgment and harsh judgment only comes into the world because of evil people. They're the thorns. They're attached first to the fire, but it doesn't say they're consumed. What's consumed? The grains, and the grains are the righteous people, meaning the food, something that's edible. That will be consumed first, even though it's because of the evil people and the evil deeds that this judgment came into the world. But who's seized first? It's the righteous people who are seized first. This reminds me of Isaiah 53, by the way, because I think that it's one of those famous things that are quite misleading and misunderstood and should be clarified for the record. Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, is the Jewish people. Okay? No ifs, ands, or buts. And anybody tells you differently, they have to come and see me. Okay, so I'm looking for comments. All right. So the Torah's Chaim, l'chein b'shvil midas hadin yeh daila v'gadol ador tzarich sheyeh gadol ma'od kedei sheyeh shakul neg Yisrael. Whoever this person is has to be very big, very big. We're not talking about your average tzaddik on the road. Okay, a big. He has to be quite a nice size righteous person to be parallel. Have all the Jews on the other side of the scale, and only then, if there isn't anyone like this, there could be a grouping. Okay, so if you don't have one person like this, he mentions im lo yeh gadol kol chak tzarich litzaref kama gedolim. So unfortunately, I don't think we have any one person in this generation, but we have quite a few, and therefore together, l'chein kadei shemidat hadin ta'amar dai. So therefore, in order for the character trait of harsh judgment to be seized and to be stopped, say enough, yedaila begadol echad. Therefore, you need on the other side, someone who's very big, she'eshkol shakol, that his package, that his cluster, is so big, sheyeh shakul neged kol Yisrael, that he will be parallel in weight to the rest of the Jewish people. So with that, I wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and we should all take to heart what we can from this lesson. We can become better people, kinder people, and study more Torah, and change the world one deed at a time.